He stood at the counter in full uniform, only to be turned away with scorn until the Café Sep's shutters closed and a plate of hot food appeared in front of him. The bright glare of the midday sun beat down on the beach cafe as Samuel Becker, a man in his late 60s, pushed open the glass door. The small bell above jingled, a sound that usually promised a warm welcome and the smell of fresh coffee. Today it seemed to ring with an empty, mocking tone. He stood just inside, his dark blue uniform, freshly pressed and still a little damp from his morning exercise, stark against the pastel interior of the salty Siren Café. He felt a familiar rumble in his stomach, a reminder that it had been hours since breakfast. The air inside was thick with the scent of grilled fish and fried potatoes, a scent that only intensified his hunger. A young woman with a bored expression behind the counter looked up, her eyes scanning him slowly, lingering on the insignia on his sleeve. She did not smile. Just a quick bite, he thought, then back to enjoying the quiet afternoon. He had walked miles along the shore, the rhythmic crash of waves a soothing balm. Now his stomach demanded attention. He stepped forward, ready to order a simple fish sandwich and a glass of iced tea. "Can I help you?" she asked, her voice flat, devoid of any warmth. Her gaze remained fixed on his uniform. He noticed a few customers at tables near the window turn their heads, their conversations momentarily hushed. The subtle shift in the cafe's atmosphere was palpable. "Yes, I'd like to order a fish sandwich, please, and an iced tea," Samuel Becker said, his voice steady despite the sudden unease. He reached into his pocket for his wallet. His hand paused, sensing something was wrong. The waitress pointed a finger, not at the menu, but directly at Samuel Becker's chest. "We don't serve people in uniform here," she stated, her tone sharp, leaving no room for discussion. The words hit him with the force of a physical blow. "We don't serve people in uniform." He felt a jolt of disbelief, then a hot flush spread across his face. "I risked my life. Why am I being treated like this?" The thought echoed in his mind, sharp and stinging. He stood there, frozen, his hand still in his pocket. The subtle murmur of conversation in the cafe picked up slightly, then dropped again, replaced by a tense silence. He saw a man at a nearby table cough into his hand, looking away quickly. His gaze flickered from the waitress's cold eyes to the brightly lit menu board above her. The options for lunch seemed to mock him, unattainable. His uniform, a symbol of service and sacrifice, had become a barrier. His stomach, which had been rumbling with hunger, now tightened into a knot of anger and confusion. He took a slow, deliberate breath, trying to process the words, to understand. He had worn this uniform with pride for decades, had seen it greeted with respect, even gratitude, in countless places. Never had he encountered such outright dismissal. His jaw tensed. Before we continue with the story, be sure to let us know where you're watching from and what time it is in the comments. We love learning about our viewers. Now let's get back to the story. "Excuse me?" Samuel Becker asked, his voice barely a whisper, a flicker of hope that he had misheard, that this was some kind of misunderstanding. He wanted to believe it. His eyes searched the waitress's face for any sign of a joke, a mistake, but found none. Her expression remained impassive, almost defiant. She crossed her arms. "You heard me. We have a policy. No uniforms." Her voice was louder now, cutting through the silence. The few customers who had been pretending not to listen now openly stared. The shame was a bitter taste in his mouth. This can't be happening. He felt his heart begin to pound against his ribs, a frantic drumbeat of humiliation. The warmth of the sun on his back earlier felt like a distant memory, replaced by a sudden chill that seeped into his bones. His vision blurred slightly at the edges as he tried to keep his composure. He wouldn't give her the satisfaction of seeing him break. He wouldn't. He clenched his fists at his sides, his nails digging into his palms. The sudden clamor of a child crying from a table near the back seemed amplified, a grating sound in the sudden heavy silence. His hunger was gone, replaced by a churning nausea. The urge to lash out, to demand an explanation, warred with a deeper need to simply disappear. The weight of his uniform, usually a source of comfort, now felt like a crushing burden. He turned slowly, his eyes scanning the faces of the silent customers, seeing a mix of curiosity and discomfort. No one spoke. No one intervened. He swallowed hard, his throat tight. He pushed the door open, the bell jingling again, this time a farewell chime, and stepped out onto the hot sand. The door clicked shut behind him. The harsh glare of the sun on the sand did little to warm the cold knot in Samuel Becker's stomach. He stood there, the rhythmic crash of the waves, a dull roar in his ears, his uniform still pressed and sharp, yet feeling entirely out of place. He pulled his phone from his pocket, his fingers fumbling slightly as he opened the camera. He raised it, trying to keep his hand steady, and took a quick, shaky video of the cafe's entrance, then zoomed in on the salty siren sign above the door. He recorded the empty tables visible through the window, then panned back to the name, his own face reflected briefly in the glass, a mask of bewilderment. He didn't know why he was doing it, only that some instinct demanded a record, a testament to what had just happened. He then opened a social media app and with a few taps, uploaded the short clip, adding only the briefest caption, "Refused service at Salty Siren for wearing my uniform." He hit post, the digital act feeling both inadequate and strangely defiant. He started walking along the water's edge, his boots sinking slightly into the wet sand with each step. The uniform felt heavy now, a symbol of unwanted attention. He scanned the horizon, hoping to spot another cafe, any place that might offer a reprieve from the humiliation. He walked for what felt like an hour, the salty air doing little to clear the fog from his mind. His confidence, usually unwavering, felt rattled, like a loose tooth. Every passing glance from beachgoers seemed to carry a hint of judgment, an echo of the cafe's rejection. He passed a small ice cream stand, but the thought of food made him feel sick. He just wanted to find a quiet corner, away from judging eyes. Meanwhile, back at the Salty Siren, the cafe owner, Michael Rodriguez, a man in his early 50s with a perpetually worried frown, was in his office, tucked away behind the kitchen. He was hunched over ledgers, the faint clatter of dishes and the murmur of customer voices a constant backdrop. His phone, which he usually kept on silent, suddenly buzzed with an insistent series of notifications. He picked it up, annoyance creasing his brow. It was his daughter, texting him furiously. "Dad, have you seen this? You need to see this now," she typed, followed by a link. Michael clicked the link, his brow furrowing deeper. The video loaded quickly. It showed the front of his cafe, the Salty Siren sign clear. Then the camera panned to a man in a military uniform. Michael recognized the uniform, though not the man. His daughter's next text popped up. "He says he was refused service because of his uniform, Dad. It's going viral." Michael's jaw tightened. He watched the short clip again, focusing on the man's face, etched with a pain that was unmistakable. The comments underneath scrolled by rapidly. "Disgraceful. Boycott this place. How dare they treat a veteran like that?" He felt a sudden surge of anger, a hot wave that pushed aside his usual anxieties about profit margins and supplies. His cafe, his livelihood, was being attacked, and for a reason he couldn't fathom. He slammed his phone down on his desk, the sound echoing in the small office. He stood up abruptly, knocking his chair backward. This was unacceptable. He strode out of his office, his face grim, and into the busy kitchen. The head cook looked up, sensing the shift in his demeanor. "Where's Sarah?" Michael demanded, his voice tight with controlled fury. Sarah was the waitress who had been on the counter during the time the video was likely taken. The cook gestured towards the main dining area. Michael pushed through the swinging doors into the cafe. The familiar hum of chatter and clinking cutlery suddenly felt like a jarring noise. He spotted Sarah taking an order at a table near the window. He walked directly to her, his steps purposeful. "Sarah, a word. In my office. Now." His voice was low but firm, carrying an undeniable authority. Sarah's eyes widened slightly, her pleasant expression faltering. She excused herself from the customer, confusion clear on her face. She followed Michael back into his office, the door clicking shut behind them. Inside the small office, Michael spun around to face Sarah. He held up his phone, the video still playing, showing the veteran's face. "Is this true?" he asked, his voice dangerously quiet. Did you refuse to serve this man because he was in uniform? Sarah looked at the screen, then at Michael, her expression shifting from confusion to a stubborn defensiveness. He was in uniform, Mr. Rodriguez, she said, her voice a little shaky, but holding firm. It's company policy, isn't it? No uniforms. Michael stared at her, a vein throbbing in his temple. No, Sarah, it is not company policy. Not now, not ever. He took a deep breath, fighting to control his temper. Get the other staff. I'm closing the cafe early. The sound of chairs scraping as people stood up. The sound of chairs scraping as people stood up quickly turned into a bewildered murmur from the staff. Sarah, still in Michael's office, looked aghast. Close early? Mr. Rodriguez? We're packed. We'll lose so much money. Her voice rose in protest. Michael ignored her, stepping past her and out into the main dining area. The aroma of grilled fish and fresh bread, usually so comforting, now felt oppressive, a reminder of the injustice he was about to correct. He walked directly to the counter, his eyes sweeping over the surprised faces of the remaining customers and staff. Attention everyone, he announced, his voice clear and resonant, cutting through the cafe's din. I apologize, but due to unforeseen circumstances, we will be closing in 5 minutes. A wave of groans and complaints rippled through the room. Please settle your tabs immediately. We thank you for your understanding. He then turned to his stunned employees. Clear the tables. All customers out. Now, he saw the kitchen staff exchange bewildered glances. The cook, standing at the pass, looked at him with an incredulous expression. Michael, are you serious? He asked, his voice low. Michael met his gaze, his own eyes burning with a quiet intensity. Never been more serious, George. I want every customer out. Then I need you to prepare a full dinner. Fish, vegetables, everything, and make it quick. Sarah emerged from the office, looking pale. But what about the policy, Mr. Rodriguez? We were told. Michael cut her off, his voice sharp. There is no such policy, Sarah. There never was. Someone made a grave error, and I am correcting it. He turned his back on her, walking over to the glass door. He flipped the open sign to closed, with a decisive click, the empty bell above jingling forlornly. He then pulled the heavy wooden shutters down, the sound echoing through the now rapidly emptying cafe. As the last disgruntled customer left, Michael locked the door, the finality of the click resounding in the sudden quiet. The cafe was empty, save for his confused staff. George, the dinner. Now, he commanded, his voice firm. He watched as the cook, still looking perplexed but obeying, turned to his station, the sounds of chopping and sizzling beginning to fill the air. Sarah and the other waitstaff stood awkwardly, unsure of what to do. You two, Michael said, gesturing to Sarah and another young waiter. Start cleaning, but quickly. This isn't a leisurely closing. He walked over to a table near the window, clearing a space and pulling out a single chair. He then went to the back, grabbing a fresh tablecloth and setting it neatly. His movements were precise, deliberate. He was driven by a powerful resolve. He heard the cook call out, "Dinner's ready, Michael." Michael went into the kitchen. On the counter sat a steaming plate, a perfectly grilled piece of fish, accompanied by roasted vegetables and a mound of fragrant rice. The smell was intoxicating, a stark contrast to the bitter taste Samuel Becker had experienced earlier. Michael picked up a tray, carefully placing the plate, a glass of water, and a fresh roll on it. He walked back through the now quiet cafe, the only sounds the faint hum of the refrigerator and his own footsteps. He carried the tray with both hands, his eyes fixed on the door. He unlocked it, the bolt sliding with a soft scrape, and pushed it open. The late afternoon sun had softened, casting a warm, golden glow on the sand. He stepped outside, the salty air brushing against his face. He saw Samuel Becker sitting on a bench further down the beach, his shoulders slumped, gazing out at the ocean. The uniform still looked smart, even in his dejection. Michael took a deep breath and began to walk towards him, the tray held steady. Samuel Becker heard the soft crunch of footsteps on the sand and turned his head slowly. His eyes, initially clouded with weariness, widened slightly as he saw Michael approaching, carrying the laden tray. The sudden slam of the owner's hand on the counter,